Good evening, my viewers. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are here for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, so today I'll briefly explain what we call bearing in mathematics. Today I'll briefly explain what we call bearing in mathematics. Okay, so the term bearing is defined as an angle that is measured from the north pole of a given point in a clockwise direction up to the line joining the two given points. This is an angle that is measured from the north pole of a given point in a clockwise direction up to the line joining the two given points. So this angle is always measured from the north pole to the line joining the two points. And this same angle has got what we call the direction. It is not just measured anyhow. It is always measured in a clockwise direction. The way the pointer of the clock moves, that's how we measure this angle. Okay? We always measure this angle in a clockwise direction, not anti-clockwise direction. Please take note of this, because most people, they end up finding the wrong answers because they might use what we call anti-clockwise direction. So when they ask you to find the bearing from a certain point, you always measure it from the north pole in a clockwise direction to the line joining the two points. Please take note of this. Okay? So this is the simple definition of a bearing in mathematics. Okay. Then the other thing that you need to take note of is the number of digits that we use to write the same bearing or the angle. Okay? So when you are writing the bearing, after you have measured the bearing, you need to take note of the number of digits that we use to represent the same angle called the bearing. Okay? So we always use 3 digits or 3 numbers to represent the same bearing in mathematics. Okay, so in our case here, I've given you an example. Let's say the angle that you have measured from the north pole in a clockwise direction is 20 degrees. If the angle measured is 20 degrees, and if this angle is a bearing, then we will not just write 2 and 0. That's all. Since it is a bearing, we are going to include a 0 in front of 20. Okay? Before the 2, we are going to write 0. We'll start with the 0, then 2, 0 degrees. Okay? Again, if you measure the same bearing, let's say you get 10 degrees, you not just write it as 10, okay? Since it is a bearing, then we are going to include what we call a 0, okay, for us to have 3 digits. Okay, so this is the other mistake that people make. They will find the angle, they will do the calculations, then when they have the 2 digits, they end up forgetting the 0 in front of those 2 digits. So please, 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 when you only have a number with 2 digits, don't forget to include a 0 in front of the same 2 digits, because you are dealing with a bearing. So please, please, when writing the final answer, if you are dealing with a bearing, always include a 0 in front of the 2 digits. Okay. Away from the description of the term bearing, okay, since now we know what a bearing is, it is just an angle which is measured from the North Pole of a given point in a clockwise direction up to the line joining the 2 points, 2 given points. And we've also described it as this angle, it is always written using 3 digits. So we always use 3 digits to write the same angle called bearing in mathematics. Okay, so since we have described what a bearing is, now we can look at the steps that we need to know in order to find the bearing. Okay, in order to calculate the angle which is called a bearing, some of the key points that you need to know. Number 1, don't forget to draw the 2 imaginary lines on both given points. Don't forget to draw the 2 imaginary lines on both points. And these imaginary lines are called the North Pole and the South Pole. Okay? So, when you are given the 2 points, on those 2 points, I'll start with point A. If you're given the 2 points, let's say point A and point B. Okay? Now, on point A, in some cases, in some questions, you'd find that they will draw the North Pole and they will not draw the South Pole. Okay? So, you as a learner, the first thing that you're supposed to do is to draw the North Pole and the South Pole on point A. Indicate those 2 poles, the South Pole and the North Pole. You do the same. You not just draw the North Pole and the South Pole on 1 point alone. No. You do the same. Even on point B, you draw the North Pole and the South Pole. Okay? And the main purpose of drawing these 2 lines on both points is that these 2 lines, they are parallel to each other. They will never meet at any point. And since they are parallel, they will form what we call the alternate angles, or alternate angles, angles that are equal. Okay, we are going to have a letter Z formed on the same two given points. So the main purpose of drawing the North Pole and the South Pole on both points is in order to have what we call the alternate angles, angles that are equal. Okay, so once you are done drawing the imaginary lines, you identify the alternate angles using letter Z. Okay, you identify the two alternate angles using letter Z. E.g., the diagram below shows two alternate angles, angle A and angle B. Since these two angles are alternate angles formed from the transverse line, which is cutting the two parallel lines, these two angles, they are always equal. Mathematically, they are always equal. Okay, then the last part on the same topic, the last step is to know how to identify two special angles. These two angles, they will not give you, or they will not show them in the question that this angle is 180 and this angle is 90 degrees. It is rare to show these two angles. They are special angles. Okay, so you as a learner, you need to identify these two special angles, 180 degrees and 90 degrees. Okay, so now how do you identify the 180 degrees? When you draw the North and the South Pole on one point, for instance, on point P, then you want to measure 180. 180 is well known. From the North Pole to the South Pole, the angle that is formed is 180 degrees. You should take note of this. Okay? Then how do we form the 90 degrees? If they have not indicated this 90 degrees in the given question, they will give you a condition. They will say one point is due east or west or south of the other point. So if they say point B is due east of A, then the line joining the 2 points, the line which is joining point A and point B, and the North Pole of point A forms what we call the 90 degrees. So the North Pole, the angle between the North Pole and the line joining point A and point B forms what we call 90 degrees. If this condition is there in the question. If they say B is due east of A, then we know that the line joining those 2 points and the North Pole forms a 90 degrees. Thank you very much For today, we end here. In the next lesson, I'll give you examples on how to answer questions on bearing.